Hey guys, so today I just wanted to go over my most common EDC carry knives and maybe a little bit of the philosophy of why I do decide to carry what I do, and yeah, just go from there. So first off, I almost always carry a fixed blade. I know that's got popular the past few years, which I think is great. But I've carried a fixed blade since I was, about 20. I started really EDCing a fixed blade with an SE3 when I was about 20, and from there I've, carried a fixed blade everywhere that I thought was acceptable for the last 14 years. So just to get started, we'll start with what I think my favorite EDC fixed blades are, and they may not be what most people would consider an EDC size fixed blade. But first off, I'm going to start with the Winkler Blue Ridge Hunter. This is a beefy knife, an expensive knife, but I really do love this knife for a few reasons. I do not think that it's the best hunting knife in the world, but I do think it is a very stout, do everything, to hell and back kind of belt knife. I've used this thing for daily chores, plus, batoning wood, feather sticks, food prep, and it's not the best at any of those things, but it does everything to a level that I'm confident in this knife. When it comes from the factory, mine did come very sharp, but the edge angle was very obtuse. So I did, fix that. You can see I've, done some working edge resharpening, just with a work sharp recently. So it's not super pretty edge right now, but it's sharp, and it's easy to get sharp. It's tough, it gets things done, and that's what I like about it. My philosophy in carrying a knife is that I want a knife that if I need to make small kindling, I can. I live in Michigan. We get quite a bit of snow in the winter, and if you're out driving in a blizzard, it can take sometimes 4 hours to get a tow if you go in a ditch. So my mentality is I always want to have a knife where I can process minor kindling and firewood, just to keep me warm in the event that I can't sit in my running car if I were to slide off the road or whatever. On top of that, I just like having a woods capable blade. I drive a lot, and when I get downtime, I go in the woods. So that's what I like to have with me is woods capable blades. So first is going to be the Winkler. I've carried this for a few years now, and I definitely recommend it as a do-all, jack-of-all trades. Not necessarily a hunting knife, as the name would suggest. Could you do it? Yeah. Is it going to be the best at it? Probably not. But the other knife that I carry fairly frequently is a Green River Hunter. This is a little thinner. I think it's about 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a hair less. But I've done light kindling, light batoning for kindling with this. It doesn't have an issue. Guys, as long as you use your knives within their limitations, they're gonna work for you for the most part. This is a 1095, you know, old carbon steel, nothing fancy. I think these blade blanks are like 20 bucks still to this day. This one was one put together by my dad back when we did muzzleloading rendezvous, and you know, it's a great all-around knife. A bit spicier than something like the Winkler, makes a great hunting knife and a great all-around woods knife. And Green River knives have the legacy that they've been around since about the 1840s. So guys back then actually had to rely on their stuff for their livelihoods and their lives. So to say that, you know, something like this is outdated or doesn't work or it's junk, well, strongly disagree. For $20 and a little elbow grease, you can have a great knife, and it's going to do the job just fine. The next knife, fixed blade, is a Marvel's. This one is from the later period. I think right around the time Marvel's was closing in Gladstone, Michigan. This was a gift from my grandfather. He won it at Manistee, the Manistee Rifle and, let's see, what is it? Rifle and Pistol Club. So this was given to me, I believe it's 52-100 ball bearing steel, convex ground. It is a partial tang, but I think that this knife is very capable within its limitations. Really like this knife, extremely comfortable handle. This would make a great hunting knife, but I do EDC this from time to time. And yeah, I know it doesn't say Gladstone, Michigan on it, but this is from the transition period from when they started to move production overseas. I believe this was one of the last Marvels still made in Gladstone. I do have the box here, and in the box, the blade cover says made in Gladstone, Michigan. So I do believe that this was made around the time that Mike Stewart from Bark River Knives was still involved with the company. And yeah, I really like this one for EDC as well. So the last one is my newest in my EDC belt knife rotation, and this is a White River Knives Hunter and Magna Cut. This is a very generous gift from my brother for my birthday. So I've had this thing for about a month, and I got to say that White River's Magna Cut is performing exceedingly well. I've really barely had to touch it up, and it's still hair shaving sharp. The handles are extremely comfortable, and it's just a great, elegant EDC fixed blade or hunting knife. And obviously it is called the Hunter. So this knife would make an excellent hunting knife, 100%. And competitively, I think the $200 price point is just right for a knife like this. When you're looking at something like a Montana knife company that's going to charge you $325 to $350 for a similar knife in Magna Cut, and they don't disclose their HRC testing numbers, but White River does, and they say that is between 62 and 64. And from what I'm experiencing with this, I'd say that their Magna Cut is heat treated very well. So if you're thinking about trying a Magna Cut knife, especially a hunting style knife, White River Knives, they're made about an hour and a half from me in Michigan, and they're excellent knives. Highly recommend. But so I've already gone through that I like to have kind of a stout fixed blade on me most of the time. And then most of the time I pair that with maybe a slice here, or a more, how would I put it, a more public friendly knife, something a little more traditional, something that might not look as knifey to somebody who's you know, skittish around blades. So most of the time I'll pair a fixed blade with a folding knife. For a while I've been carrying this 1990 Remington Bullet knife. This is a Delin handle. I believe it's I think it's 440A steel, which, you know, is an antique steel. You know, it's not going to hold an edge the longest, but it does fairly well, as long as you know how to hone and sharpen a knife. These old steels are going to do fine for light duty tasks, and I mean, a knife like this will get you through field dressing a deer before needing a touch-up. So yeah, I really like this one. I really love the single blade locking trapper pattern. It's one of my favorites. And in that same line, another one that I carry in conjunction with a fixed blade pretty often is the single blade locking GEC. I believe this is the 72. It's the full size locking trapper. You know, I bought this before the collector craze, so I think I paid sub $100 for it, and this has been awesome traditional, and it has seen a lot of use and been loved on, as that patina can show. So in that same vein, these two are great companion knives to a fixed blade. Actually, it's in my pocket right now. The other knife I like to carry with a fixed blade pretty often is an Opinel number 8. See if I can open this with one hand. But these knives speak for themselves. Very old design. I think 1890 or prior to that, these were initially designed. They're very inexpensive. I think for 20 bucks shipped, maybe you can get one of these in carbon steel. They're very thin, very slicey. Makes a great companion knife to something like a thicker fixed blade. And really a great knife. Also, these things strike a ferro rod like nobody's business, if that's something you're interested in. Very sharp spine. I was a little late to the Opinel game, and since carrying one, I'm very impressed by its cutting ability. You know, even when it dulls out, it's thin enough behind the edge that it's going to cut everything, especially food stuff. So great companion knife there. And then we have here's a stag handle Boker Gentleman 2.0 in D2. This is about a 3-inch blade. Great little knife, and holds an edge pretty well from what I can tell. On Boker's website, they say that these are coming from Germany. It does say Germany on the shield. I've seen some of the websites, like Blade HQ and Knife Center, maybe saying that these are not made in Germany, but regardless, it's been a great knife. It's very solid, locks up great, good little traditional carry. The other companion knife that I like is a Sodbuster Juno. Very small, very thin, and this is another carbon steel knife. Now you're going to notice a lot of carbon steel here. I love carbon steel. You know, it's simple, it's inexpensive, it's not the greatest steel you can use. Totally understand that. You know, if you guys are steel snobs, this is probably not the video for you, because I think that if our ancestors who actually had to carve their way through the wilderness survived with carbon steel, there's no reason why we can't use carbon steel these days. Are there better steels? Arguably, yeah. But as long as you know how to sharpen a knife, I just don't think that the steel matters too much, as long as it's not pot metal. And you know, that's really all I'm gonna say on steel snob stuff. But really enjoy traditional folding knives, and I love the character that a carbon steel knife gets from its patina and from use. So to me, that patina just tells a story, you know. It shows, you know, your story with the knife in a way. You know, maybe it sounds like some weird crackpot stuff, but you know, I really love the patinas that form on these carbon steel blades. Anyway, the other style of knife that I really enjoy carrying with a fixed blade are folding hunters, and these are they're kind of large as a companion blade, but sometimes I carry them anyway just because I like them so much. This is a two-blade 1950s era K-bar folding hunter. This one's kind of unique in that it has genuine bone scales. Most of the time you see these with either stag for the older ones or a faux stag for the newer ones that have the model number on them. But this appears to be a 50s to 60s era tang stamp with no model number marking, and an unusual scale combination here. I have seen other K-bars with this type of bone scale on them, but never one of these. So I found this in an antique store and I was really pleased to find it. Really like these, the two blades. One second. You know, you have your Skinner blade, they call them, and then your main blade, which is usually a clip point. And I just love this blade combination. They're about 4 inches long, these blades. And I love a 3 to 5 inch blade. You know, that's kind of my bread and butter. Blade length, I think you can accomplish most tasks that you need a knife to do within that blade range. 4 inches is my preferred. For a dedicated woods knife, 5 inches is probably what I'd choose most of the time. But as a companion knife, 2 4-inch blades, you know, to switch between if one dulls out. I really dig that. And the folding hunter pattern is just timeless in my mind. Another folding hunter that I've been carrying is the Western 062. This is a Delin handle, but they do some of the nicest kind of faux bone Delin that I've seen. This is probably, I believe it's a 60s or 70s era Western knife. And I've been very pleased with this knife. It's a little slimmer than something like the K-bar, a little lighter too. So as a companion knife, this is a little bit easier to carry, as that does get a bit heavy in combination with a fixed blade. But awesome antique finds. The other knife that I'll carry sometimes is a Camp King. I believe this is a 1950s Imperial. I believe this is a 1950s Imperial. And you've got, sorry for setting the camera down so many times, I need to get a stand, guys. You got carbon steel blade, can opener, bottle opener, flathead screwdriver, all These are pretty light. Initially these came with like plastic covers. The ones on this one were broken off, so I just finished taking them off and went with the bare metal. Just really handy to have a can opener, a bottle opener, and an awl sometimes. You can find these pretty cheap too. These are antiques. I believe this is a 1950 to 80s Imperial USA. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's somewhere in that time range. And very cheap. You can find these at flea markets, antique stores, eBay, pretty inexpensively. But awesome little tool. So I'm gonna get into two of the other tools in my rotation that I do carry at times when I don't carry something like this. You know, if I'm not carrying a belt knife for whatever reason, sometimes I will carry the Cold Steel 4 Max Scout. And you know, some people probably think that's ridiculous. It's a 10-ounce knife, but I genuinely believe this is the strongest folding knife ever made. The Triad lock has spoken for itself, and there's not much more I can say to that. It's a very hefty knife, but the way that they've tapered that primary grind into the secondary grind, it cuts extremely well. You know, as I would bet my life on this knife in the woods, you know, if I had to. You know, I have batoned this just like fixed blades, and I know batoning is kind of a weird thing that a lot of people don't get behind, and I understand that. I own axes, I own saws, you know, I use those too. But sometimes if I just go on like a little day hike and I want to make a small campfire for lunch, I'm probably not gonna pack in a 3-pound axe. And so, you know, for 10 ounces or, you know, less, you know, looking at these knives and this knife, you know, I can, if I need to get to some dry wood, I can do that with all of these, no problem, understanding their limitations. I'm not trying to chop a tree down. I think a lot of people who hear the word batoning, they see like the YouTube thrash testing and think that it means, you know, you're knocking down full-size trees with your knife and then splitting whole logs. I don't really see that as the definition of batoning. For me, it's can I get to standing dead wood? Can I get to the center of it if things are wet conditions? And these can all do that, all of these fixed blades and this folder. And honestly, you could probably do it with a lot of these folders too, if you know what you're doing and you're not stressing the locks. But suffice to say, I can carry one knife, you know, for like a day hike that can let me build a small fire where I can, you know, cook my lunch or whatever I want to do without carrying a 3-pound axe. You know, sometimes I just don't want to carry that much stuff, and I'll throw a little what would you call it, a little messenger bag style sack with my cook kit, a you know, some fire lighting stuff and some cordage, and that'll be what I carry into the woods sometimes. You know, I just don't think it's realistic to say that you're always going to bring a backpack full of tools. You know, if you're on your own property, you know, I understand the mentality of use the right tool for the job, but you're not always gonna have the whole tool shed strapped to your back, and I think it's ridiculous to think that. So if you have a knife like this on you, you can make a small fire. Most of your tinder, if it's not wet out, you can get by hand anyway. So, you know, it's kind of a moot point for me whether or not a knife should be able to baton, you know, to the center of dry wood, kindling size pieces. I think it should. If you don't, that's fine. But regardless, this is a beast of a folding knife. I love it. It's overbuilt. It really feels like a tool. And what more can you say about it? Cold Steel 4MAX Scout, AUS 10. I find the AUS 10 sharpens up really good, holds an edge reasonably well. I don't have any complaints about it. This might be a ridiculous knife to a lot of people, and that's okay. I'm not looking to please anybody. This is just my philosophy of what I carry. This is my EDC rotation most of the time. The other item that I'll carry, not quite as frequently, but fairly regularly, is either this Leatherman Signal or a Leatherman Wave. If I'm going to carry something like this, I probably won't carry a folding knife. I'll probably have a fixed blade in this. So, yeah, you've got a lot of options as far as tools on these, but my main thing is pliers. Especially at my old job, you know, having just a pair of pliers handy at all times it's such a useful thing to have. And I always keep a multi-tool in any of my bug out bags or whatever, because I always carry snare wire. You know, that's a whole another topic, but you know, if you think you're going to go out in the woods, if something were to kick off and just shoot animals all the time, well, it's probably not super realistic. You're much more likely to be able to trap them. So I always like to have snare wire and a pair of multi-tool pliers, and you know, to set those traps up. So when I was a kid, when I was about 21, I first got into trapping. My uncle took me on my first trap lines, and learned a lot about trapping and just how much more food you could gain by set it and forget it traps versus you know, sitting out there hunting. It's a passive way to get food. So I think it's a good skill to have. It's a good thing to keep around if you have, you know, bug out bags. But, you know, like I said, this is just, you know, my philosophy of carry. I like having a nice slicey folding knife in conjunction with something that might be a little tougher, like a fixed blade. And that's not to say that these things don't slice well. Some do more than others, but these have been things that I've carried and used and tested, and they've all, you know, met my expectations as far as what I believe a knife should do. So yeah, just figured I'd sit down for a little while. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope that you all have a good weekend, and whatever kind of knife you like, whatever kind of reason you carry a knife, I hope that you enjoy the freedom to do so, because there are many places in the world that don't. And yeah, keep on trucking, guys. All right.